So Jupiter is going to be moving into the sign of Gemini on May 24th. And it's going to stay there for a year. What can Jupiter and Gemini bring? Well, let's look at Gemini. We know a lot about Jupiter. Jupiter expands whatever he touches. But what is Gemini? Gemini is all about the third house. Gemini loves to learn. They cannot get enough of learning. They thrive off of learning new things, acquiring knowledge. Communication, third house. Short trips, of course, because it makes sense because Gemini is a mutable sign. And Gemini is also kind of the sign that's known for like ADHD, basically. So it's like they move on really quick from one subject to another, and they can go on rants. Like myself, yes. I have my moon in Gemini, so I can definitely relate with that. But Gemini is just all about community and wanting to understand, seeking to understand. Jupiter being there, we can see an expansion of communication, information in good ways, but with the good also comes the bad. So what themes on the darker end of it can happen? Well, an overload of information. So much information to where it's hard to decipher what is true, what's false. It's going to be the information war. Jupiter is actually debilitated in Gemini because it's too much impacting the nervous system. So Gemini is all about communication, all in the head, mental, just like a quantum computer, in a way, soaking up all the information. But Jupiter's there, it's like an overload, completely overload, burnt out. And that's the dark side of it. We can see heightened dramas, more slanders out there. I also believe that we're going to see a lot more scary things in regards to AI. Of course, with Pluto's positioning right now and with Jupiter and Gemini, making it even more intense of a combination to almost turbocharge the progress to fakes, deep fakes happening so easily. I mean, just the other day I saw this video of a guy that it was like a split screen, and it was a man without the filter, and he had the other screen with like a AI filter on it, and it looked so real. It looked literally like a very beautiful woman. Like he was a very pretty woman, right? And very believable. Every time he was talking, making movements, it looked very fluid. And if you didn't see the split screen that was right next to it that showed what's behind the filter, it would be difficult to be able to decipher that, to be able to point that out or notice that. So that's what I mean. Stuff like that. And because think about it this way, it's like Jupiter and Gemini, it heightens and turbocharges information absorption. I don't think that just applies to human beings. I think that can also apply to computers. There's like open AI, like ChatGPT, Gemini. It's even named after the sign, Gemini. So just keep that in mind. And I just realized that now too, randomly. So yeah, just be wary of all the information that you're soaking up and make a conscious effort to stay grounded at all times. I mean, it's always good to do that anyways, but more than ever now, especially within this time frame, within a year where Jupiter's in Gemini. And as it's in Gemini, there's going to be a aspect to Saturn in Pisces. Square. It's going to be squaring Saturn and Pisces. Saturn and Jupiter are complete opposites of each other. Saturn restricts, controls. Jupiter just expands. There's no end. There's no boundaries. It's just constant. It's like indulging. So when you have two mutable signs in two planets that oppose each other, well, that's going to be interesting too. Because mutable signs in themselves adapt so easily that it's hard to, you have to kind of learn how to take a more structured approach. It makes it more difficult to learn that. It doesn't come natural. Does that make sense? But in a way, it's like Saturn being in Pisces, though, helps. Saturn, you need to have Saturn there. Saturn will help with the control and willpower in things. When it comes to Pisces, the sign of Pisces, which has the tendency to become delusional because Pisces ruling Neptune. Oh, that actually reminds me, Neptune is at its end degrees right now in Pisces as well. So we have Saturn, we have Neptune, both in Pisces, but Saturn is in the beginning degrees still of Pisces, and then Neptune's on its way out. So within this whole time frame, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on and trying to figure out, okay, what's real, what's not, overload of things. Just be careful not to fall prey to ideologies. There's going to be a lot more. There's already a ton of ideologies out there floating around that only add to the confusions in the collective, therefore leading us down a more delusional path, and losing ourselves, losing the abilities to create solid ground. And it's like making the example of, you can't be too much of one way or too much of the other way. During this time frame, it's going to be very crucial to keep as much groundedness as possible. So, what else? There was something else that I wanted to bring up, and I just completely I think that was mainly it, but I think the nodes are going to be changing soon too. Anyways, I wonder where everyone's Gemini is in their charts. Do you have any planets in Gemini? Gemini moon right here in my 10th house. We'll see how that pans out. Oh, and then after Jupiter's in Gemini, it'll go into Cancer. So whatever happens during Jupiter and Gemini, just keep in mind that when Cancer comes around, depending on how you handle the Jupiter and Gemini, Jupiter and Cancer is going to bring a lot of the emotions out because ruled by the moon. So just think of Jupiter and the moon combining. So that's all for now. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week.